and I wasn't playing. I was seated at the bench. I was like, yeah, go. And my teacher was also always saying to me like, chill. I was like,
to inspire young girls to dream big, first we must introduce them to women that they can relate to. I'm Asma Al-Badawi and this is Beyond PE.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Beyond PE. Today I have the amazing guest Nora, and Nora, please introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, thank you for having me. Well, my name is Nora and I'm having my own brand. It's called Nia, and it's all about modest activewear, streetwear to get people, to get women especially moving.
That's amazing. So do you have a specific target age group that you like to kind of inspire and get moving? Because the theme of these conversations is Beyond PE, and PE is basically physical education. It's a class that normally students take while they're in school, and we found that a lot of women especially don't tend to continue playing sports when it's no longer compulsory. So what is your target audience with your brand and your story?
Well, I don't have a specific age target group, just women in general who want to be comfortable playing sports in the clothes they want to wear. And so it can be a girl who's 12 years old who chose to wear the hijab, or maybe just a woman in her 40 or in her 50s that doesn't know, like, oh, what do I need to wear? I want to work out, I want to be healthy, but I'm not sure what to wear. So my age range is very broad.
That's amazing that you say that, because like actually one of my last guests, she was talking about how she's now a mother and she doesn't want to stop playing sports just because she's now a mother. So when you're saying that you're targeting women of all age groups, it means they might be mothers, they might be working women, they could be architects, they could be anything. But for them to include sports in their life is kind of like amazing. Do you have like a specific sport that you kind of play?
Yeah, I play soccer. I don't play it like on a high level, just with some girls, like vocational. And we played it twice a week. I also played karate when I was younger. And I did some boxing. So I just try to be and stay active and play a game that I'm having fun with. And at this moment in time, that's soccer.
That's so amazing. You've played a lot of sports. I played a lot of sports as well, and mainly when I was at school. What was your experience of PE when you were in school? How has that sort of impacted how you view sports now and the reason behind why you play sports?
Yeah, well, I was a very active child, but in my community, we weren't used to play a sport outside PE. Like, we didn't do any activity outside the school activities. And I loved PE. I was like always the active kid. Like, I was, even when I wasn't playing, I was seated at the bench. I was like, yeah, go. And my teacher was also always saying to me like, chill. I was like, always wanted to win and to support other children in my group. But that was it. Like, that was the only thing I did. And I played a lot outside. So now a lot of children are in the house on their phone. We didn't have a phone during that time, but I was always outside. So I didn't play any sports at that time, only PE. And I loved that. When I went to Morocco one holiday in the summer, my parents are from Morocco. A cousin of mine played karate, and he was always showing himself off, like, showing some moves. And I was always like, oh my God, I want to do that too. That's so cool. That's so awesome. So he took me with him to the gym. And there I saw some young girls, Moroccan girls who live in Morocco, one with hijab, one without, but they were playing karate just the way I wanted to do that. So they actually inspired me to go find sports outside PE, like outside school. So that's why I started, like, I really chose something to do outside school activities.
Yeah, do you know what? I have like a similar experience, but the opposite. Because I was a lot like you as well. Like I played a lot of sports in PE. I didn't do anything outside of like the school environment for a very long time, up until I was probably around 14. And I started playing jujitsu. And I remember one of the girls who was telling me about it in my class. And I was like, oh, I want to learn to like fight and hit people and defend myself. And so I went to my mom and I was like, oh, I want to learn to do this. And I remember my dad saying like, why? She's already fighting in school. And then my mom was like, if she's already fighting, at least let her learn to do it properly with discipline. So I continued playing, but like I'm Sudanese, and when I went to Sudan, I remember like the first time ever, I think I was like 11 years old, and I was in the village and I saw the boys playing football. So I joined in, and my cousin, she came, she like grabbed me from here and she like pulled me to the side and she was like, no, Asma, like we don't do that here. Like girls don't play. And I was like, but why? Like, so I had the opposite when I went to Sudan. Initially, it was like girls don't do that here. So I felt really privileged that I live in the UK and that I have the opportunity to kind of do all those sports. But like in the last few years when I've actually found a lot more women who are playing sports. They are competing, they're going to the Olympics, you know, representing Sudan. So it's like really, really amazing. My next question.
Yeah.
Could you identify with any of the athletes that you saw on the TV kind of growing up?
Well, growing up, not so much. I still realize that whenever I see a woman with a hijab playing sports or is like active, I get so proud. I'm like, oh my God, yes, you're my sister, you're doing good. And I'm cheering up from afar. So I've noticed that it's still something special. It's still not ordinary. So, and I realized growing up, I didn't have that example. Like that's the first time in Morocco, I saw some girls, I identified myself with them. I was like, oh, I can do this too. Not realizing it at that moment, but yeah, so growing up, I did not have any examples. No, not at all.
Yeah, I think I had a very similar experience to that. In fact, it was the exact same experience. Like the only girls that I knew that played sports were like me and my next door neighbor and the girls in my class. But I would watch the Olympics, or I would watch other sporting competitions, and I didn't see anyone who was wearing the hijab that I felt like, oh, you know, because they're doing it, I can do it as well. And I think now that I'm a lot older, and now that I kind of was part of the FIBA Allow Hijab campaign. And while I was doing that, I realized that actually there's so many sports that have actual bans on the hijab. And that was one of the biggest reasons that we never saw all these women in boxing, in football, in all these competitions. But now I think we're slowly moving away from that, in the sense of there aren't a lot of rules and restrictions that kind of forbid women from playing sport. And I think that's why people like you are important, because you're in the community. I don't think it's always the people at the top who are playing professionally who are going to inspire the young girls. Sometimes it's the girls in your community that see you in the community gym, you know, playing and training, and they're the ones who start coming in. They bring their moms, their sisters, their aunties, you know, and then before you know it, you're kind of like all meeting up on a Wednesday to like just play. And I think that's the beauty of sports, at that community.
Yeah, absolutely. I realize that, like, because I'm active and play sports, the people around me get motivated to be active also. Well, now I'm on a trip with women, a women-only trip in Zanzibar, and I'm trying to motivate them and get them with me to the gym. So whenever there's something going on, they're like, "Oh, Nora, do you need to exercise again?" I'm like, "Yeah, you need to exercise with me." So yeah, and yeah, the thing is, I see a lot more young girls play sports. Like for Moroccan girls, like between 12 and 20 years old, I see them play soccer, for example, or boxing, or something like that. But my generation, or even the generation who is older, I really worry about them. Like, do they get older in a healthy way? So I'm always thinking like, oh, how do I get my mom, for example, how do I get her moving? Do I need like to start a group for just go for walks? Like, because yeah, the goal is to get old in a healthy way, to stay fit.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of the kind of advertising that we actually see on a regular basis is solely related to the gym. So a lot of people see fitness as, I have to go to the gym, I have to either pick up weights, or I'm going to run on a treadmill or even cycle. But I think that kind of perception of you can only be healthy if you go to the gym is kind of really old dated. And most people don't like the gym. I don't like the gym. Like, I would much rather go play basketball for 3 hours, you know,
exactly,
with my friends,
yeah.
than go to the gym. And it's kind of like we need to kind of introduce these new ways of exercising, so that it doesn't feel like this thing with a membership, and you know, you feel bad because you've been paying every month and you haven't been, you know.
Exactly, yeah. I've really learned to love the gym. I didn't love going to the gym at first, because I went to the gym and didn't know what to do. It's like, yeah, I'm moving something, but am I doing it right? Like, people are watching, looking at me. But what I love, like playing soccer, playing boxing, or even basketball, even though I'm not good at it, I love playing the game. And while playing that game, I'm moving my body and I'm staying healthy. But yeah, that misperception needs to be changed. Absolutely, we can search for the sports that you like to do.
Yeah, you give me like a lot to think about today. So you're Muslim. Do you feel like when you wear the hijab, you have a lot more responsibilities compared to other girls who don't wear the hijab and play a sport?
Yeah, I think so. I am aware that I'm an example for younger girls, younger Muslims. I'm aware that young girls from my community need more role models, and I wish to be that role model for them. So I hope that like a girl in her 20s, or maybe even before, like looks at me, sees me active while I'm 37, and thinks like, oh my God, I want to be like her when I grow older. Like, yeah, I'm aware of that part, that we need role models in our community. Yeah.
That's really amazing. And mashallah, I feel like you're already doing that, like through your own platforms.
Thanks.
Like, you're inspiring the girls, and you're based in the Netherlands, right? So like,
Yeah.
how is the Netherlands kind of like different to other parts of the world, or to Morocco?
Well, yeah, I am born and raised in the Netherlands, so I'm not sure if I really can compare that to other countries. But the thing is that for me, I started to wear my hijab in my 20s. So there was a time that I was like, how am I going to be active while staying true to my identity, staying true to the way I want to cover up, the choices I made in life. So there was a time that I didn't go to the gym. I didn't play any sports, because in my head it was like, I can't mix them together. So after a while, like maybe 5 years, 6 years later, I was like, I really am missing playing sports. I really need to find a way to do that. And then it started like, oh yeah, you can have like an hour a week back in the gym where no one sees you. I'm like, I don't want to be that, to like placed in a bag. So I want just to play the game that I want to play, the sports that I want to play, and the clothes that I want to wear, the thing that I am comfortable with. So then my journey started to search for modest activewear. And then I realized there was like so little on the market. So like, I was like, how is this possible? We're like, everything is possible, and we don't have anything to wear where we just feel comfortable with. So that's the thing I find like a little bit strange in Europe, that it's not yet available. And yeah, in Morocco, like I see girls and women play sports with their hijab, and I think it's more common there than here. Like whenever I go to the gym, I still feel people watching me and like thinking like, aren't you hot in that? The struggle is also with our own community, of course, because like now I'm wearing a turban. For some people that's not modest enough. So you have always like for one part you are covering up too much, and for the other part you are covering up too little. So for me it's important that you can play the sports you are comfortable with, and also you can wear the clothes that you are comfortable with.
Yeah, you know, you made some like really good points. Like Sudan now compared to, like, for example, Sudan 20 years ago, there's so many more spaces for girls to actually like play sports. And I've seen like so many hijabs out there. Like I remember like my first sports hijab that wasn't really a sports hijab but worked as a sports hijab I got from Sudan. And there's countries like Malaysia, the UAE, all these countries already had sort of those other types of clothing that you could wear and go to the gym. And on top of that, they also had women only spaces, and it meant that like it didn't matter like if you were married and, you know, if you were part of a community that wasn't comfortable with women sort of being in male spaces, you still could kind of say to your husband or your mom or your dad or whatever, like, look, it's a only women's space. And I think in the UK we have certain sports that are actually very female orientated, like netball. In netball, it's mostly female refs, female players. It's very rare that anyone would play that was a man. And yeah, and on top of that, it was kind of like the only men who would kind of come in would be the fathers or relatives. So they kind of created that community. But then if you look at basketball, on the other hand, it's mainly sports. It's mainly male coaches. It's mainly males doing the reffing and all this kind of stuff. So I feel like the West is slightly more behind in terms of kind of creating those spaces and clothing for women.
I think like here in the West, whenever like a woman with a hijab excels in something or wants to play something in a higher level, it's like it's happening. It's like something is changing, and like everyone gets I don't know what they think about it, but like it's a real thing. Like, and in Islamic countries, it's like it's normal.
Yeah, like for a very long time, like every time I did a news kind of interview, the headline would be hijabi basketball player. And I was like, but I don't identify as hijabi. Like that's not how I present myself. I just say I'm a basketball player. Like it was always this other thing that like you had to kind of celebrate. Whereas for us, it was like we're just playing the sport with added fabric. And more laundry to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really was tired of like putting something on and like something else on it because it didn't have any sleeves or something. So yeah, a lot of fabric.
Way too much fabric.
But
so the last question I kind of want you to answer is, what would you want other girls out there to take from your story? And also, where can they find you?
Well, I hope I can be someone's role model, like from 12 years old until, I don't know, 80 years old. And I want them to know like being active really does make you feel better emotionally, physically, mentally. It really does help. And search for something that you enjoy doing. And it doesn't need to be the gym, or does it need to be like something like soccer or something else, like just try to find the thing that you enjoy doing. And like, yeah, our body is our amana, so we have to take care of it, and that is, well, exercising. So I want to motivate them to be active. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram under Nia Sportswear. There you can find my sportswear for modesty.
Amazing. Jazakallah khair, and thank you so much for joining me today. To everyone else, make sure that you follow her, and also tune in for next week, because next week we're going to have another episode and we're going to speak to another athlete. Thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely day.